How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Samach Daf 60 of Masechta BavaMetzia. Friends, your friends. Today we are finishing the fourth parak of Masechta BavaMetzia, Parak Azov. That's pretty awesome because I was shtickle nervous. Before we started Parak Azov, I didn't know what Parak Azov talked about. It just sounded hard. Azov, gold. It sounded like, we're going to talk about all sorts of money and it's going to be really hard. Parak Azov was the best. It was awesome, like BavaMetzia in general. But chevra. We're going to stop today at the end of Parak Azov. So about, in a certain sense, halfway through Samach Amud Beis, where Ezu Neshech begins. Wah. Chevra, Ezu Neshech. I'm very nervous for Parak Ezu Neshech. I've heard that I should be, but I'll tell you, Epis, I've already done, I think, 2 daf of Ezu Neshech. It isn't ridiculous yet. I have no what's it called? No illusions that it won't become ridiculous, but so far it's manageable. Anyways, it's exciting stuff. I was nervous about Azov. Azov turned out to be incredible. And now tomorrow we're gonna start Ezu Neshech. I hope it's gonna be incredible too. But Chevra, once we're done with Ezu Neshech, I feel like we're over like a big old hump. A big old hump. I feel like that's gonna be a big hump. Like once we're done with Ezu Neshech, it's gonna be about a little bit over 2 weeks. I don't know. It might be the hardest 2 weeks of our lives. Who knows? But then it feels like we still have a lot of BavaMetzia to do, I have no illusions, but this is the best, Chevra, it's the best. It's the best. Alright, Chevra, today's daf is not that hard. Alright, here we go. Daf Nun Tes Amud Beis, all the way at the bottom, says the Mishnah, Ein ma'arvin peris beperis, afilu chadoshim b'chadoshim ve'in tzorich leimar chadoshim b'yishonim. Okay. So if Shimon says to Reuven, I'm going to sell you fruits from this field, so the fruits that he sells need to be from that field. He can't sell him fruits from a different field. Okay, say it. What does Rashi say? You can't mix in fruits from a different field. Okay, fine. So again, from the beginning, in ma'arvin peris beperis. Okay, so you can't mix together fruits with other fruits. If you said that you're going to sell fruits from this field, from Reuven in the field, so you can't sell fruits from Shimon in the field. Afilu chadoshim b'chadoshim, even if they're both new peris, they're both new fruits, you can't mix them together. Ve'in tzorich lomar chadoshim b'yishonim, and certainly, you can't. You can't mix in new fruits with old fruits. Meaning, when we think fruits, we probably think about like apples and oranges and figs and things. But it could also be wheat. So, for example, older, drier, aged wheat is easier to make into flour than younger, moister, riper wheat. So therefore, in this context, kind of like wine, right? Older wine is more mechubad, more gewaldig than young wine, and therefore, So therefore, if you're meant to be selling older wheat that's easier to make into flour, certainly you can't be mixing in younger wheat that is worse for making flour. So again, from the beginning, Ein ma'arvin peris beperis afilu chadoshim b'chadoshim ve'in tzorich lomer, and obviously not chadoshim b'yishonim. Obviously, you can't mix new wheat into old wheat. Fine. Be'emes amru b'yayin itiru la'arev kosher berach, but they said in truth that when it comes to wine, you would be permitted, if you said that you were going to sell soft wine, you could mix in hard wine, because the hard wine is going to make the soft wine better. And I assume that this I don't know about these wines, but my understanding is that the wines at that time were more of a concentrate kind of thing. So now we buy wine; you pour it into a glass and you drink it. But I guess you needed more dilution, and I guess it was harder, softer, diluted, not diluted. All right, fine. So you can mix in a hard wine into soft wine because the hard wine makes the soft wine better. And you can't mix sediment of wine into wine. But you could put in its sediment. The Gemara is going to ask, wait, what do you mean? Do you put in the sediment? Don't you put in the sediment? If water got mixed into one's wine, you can't then go and sell that wine in your store unless you tell each of the buyers, like, hey, this wine has water diluted into it. Now you cannot, however, sell diluted wine to a wine merchant, even if you tell him that it's diluted, because we're not concerned about tricking him in this case. We're concerned that he's going to now trick his customers, right? So meaning, if you are selling diluted wine to your own customers, so it's okay so long as you inform them. If you are selling diluted wine to a wine monger, well, then that is going to be a problem, because the issue isn't selling it to him. The issue is that he's going to sell it to other people and he may not inform them. Now, if you live, however, in a place where the minig is to dilute the wine and it's expected that the wine will be diluted, well, then it's okay. Hatager notel mehe gronis. A tager, a merchant, a person, right? So kind of like a wine a grain wholesaler. So he can take from a bunch of different granaries and put it into one kind of storage facility. Mehegitos, or from 5 vats, wine vats, and put it into one sort of wine facility. As long as he doesn't sort of try to trick people and, say that they all come, it's like single vineyard, but it really isn't. Meaning, so if you're buying from like a grain wholesaler or a wine wholesaler, so the assumption is that the product is being sourced from several different places. But you can't make it seem, however, like it's being sourced from one place while really it's being sourced from multiple places. That would not be allowed. But in general, the assumption is that a wine or a grain wholesaler is going to be sourcing from several sources. Says the Gemara Tanur Rabbanan, Ein tzarich lomer chadashos me'arba v'yishonis mishalish de'ein ma'arvin ela afilu chadashos mishalish v'yishonis me'arba ein ma'arvin p'nei she'adam rotze li'ashnon. We had said in the Mishnah that you can't mix together fruits from one field with fruits from another field. Meaning, if you said you're going to sell fruits from a particular field, you can't mix in fruits from another field. And we said that this applies to if they're all sort of new fruits, you can't mix them. And obviously, if you committed to selling aged grain, so you can't mix in new grain, because new grain is assumed to be not ready for making into flour. Now the Gemara says, now obviously if the new grain is cheaper than the old grain, right? Meaning, if you had committed to selling old grain, obviously you can't mix into that new grain, and obviously not if it's cheaper. You can't mix in cheap new grain. That's really bad. But what if the new grain was a more expensive grain? It was a more expensive wheat, right? Now the thing is, it's still not ready to be made into flour, because at the end of the day, it's still young. But it's a higher quality product, right? I think the comparison to wine is relevant over here, right? You can have young wine that's very expensive, but that doesn't mean that it's ready to drink right now, right? You'll buy an expensive bottle of wine when it's young, but then you will age it for several years. So what we're saying over here is that even if the young wheat is a more expensive wheat, you still can't mix it in, because even though it's more expensive, it's not ready to be made into flour right now, which is what he wants. The reason why it's expensive is because it's a higher quality that you can age for a long time. But in terms of what you committed to selling, new grain is not what he wants. He wants grain that can be made into flour, not new grain that cannot be made into flour, even if it's really geschmack. So says the Gemara in Tzarich Lomer Chadoshos Me'arba V'Yishonos Mishalos. Okay, obviously, if the new grain is going for 4 sa'ah for a selah and the old grain is 3 sa'ah for a selah, i.e. the old grain is more expensive than the new grain, certainly you can't mix in cheap new grain into the old, more expensive older grain. Dein ma'arvin, you can't mix them together. Ela afilu chadoshis mishalish, even if the new grain is more expensive, it's 3 sa'ah for a selah. V'yishanis me'arba, and the older grain is cheaper, and it's 4 sa'ah for a selah. So even if the newer grain is more expensive, ein ma'arvin, still you can't mix it in with the old grain, because the reason why the new grain is more expensive is not because it will make a better flour now, but because it will make a better flour if you age it into the future, but that doesn't make it usable right now, and therefore, if he said that he's going to be selling old grain that can be made into flour right now, he cannot mix in the new grain because he has no use for it right now. Okay, in truth they said that you can mix the hard wine with the soft wine because it makes the soft wine better. Amr Belazar Ada Amro says, Belazar, this says Kol be'emes amru alochahi, that whenever it says be'emes amru, it means that this is the halacha. That it says be'emes amru, and then it says, he gives a reason, right? Because the hard wine makes the soft wine better, and I guess this means that this is the halacha. I saw that there was a letter that said halacha Moshe Sinai. I don't know. Let me see something. Yeah, so it could just be that it's saying that this is the halacha because it gives a reason, right? Because it makes the what does it say? Mipnei shumashbicho, makes the wine better. And Rav Nachman says, Rav Nachman ben Agito Shanu, that is when the wine is still, when the soft wine is still in the vats, it's still the season when they're making the wines, and then so at that time the hard wine will mix together with the soft wine and make it, maybe the younger wine, and make it better. Ve'inna dekama arve shelo bein agitos. What about nowadays though, when they mix the hard wine into the soft wine, even when it's not in the vats? Yeah, but the people know that, and therefore they're mochel, and that's why it's okay. That this is Rav Acha who says that you could mix it in. The Tanya Rav Acha says that, look, if it's something that people taste before buying, so then they could taste it and make a decision if they want to buy it or not. You can't mix sediment of wine with wine, but you can put sediment into wine. But didn't we say you can't put wine? And what do we say? We said you can't put sediment of wine into wine. But you could put its sediment into it. But we just said that you can't put any sediment into any wine. And if you're going to say, what does it mean that you could put its sediment into it? As long as you let him know that you're putting the sediment into the wine. But that can't be. From the fact that the Seifa says by water, that if there's water mixed into wine, don't sell it in your store, unless you let the people know. And not to a merchant, even though you let him know. Which means that in the ratio, we're not making any distinctions between letting him know and not letting him know. Which means that when you say that when the ratio says that you're allowed to put sediment into wine, it means even without letting people know. So what's the deal? First it says don't put sediment into wine, then it says you could put sediment into wine. So in what context would that be? This is what it's saying. Look, if you like poured out wine from the vat yesterday and you're pouring out wine from the vat today, don't what does it say? In ma'arvin shmarim shel emesh. So don't take the sediment from yesterday's wine b'shal yom and put it into today's wine. V'lo shal yom b'shal emesh, and don't take the sediment from today's wine and put it into yesterday's wine, because it's gonna the sediments from the different wines are gonna mess up mess things up. But you can put its own sediment into it. Tanam Yochid learn a brayso like this. Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Yehuda, Ashofa yain lechavero. If somebody pours out wine into another, from one vat to another, don't mix yesterday's sediments with today. Not today's sediments with yesterday's wine. But you can mix together yesterday's sediments with yesterday's wine and today's sediments with today's wine. Right, we said if water gets mixed into wine, so then do not sell it in your store unless you let the people know, and you can't sell it to a merchant because we're concerned he might sell it without letting people know. Rava, they brought to him wine from a store, mazge, and he diluted it, taime lo hava bosim, and he tasted it, and it wasn't super gishmak. Rava, we had seen in the past, the Rava had said any wine that does not require 3 parts water to 1 part wine, if I'm not mistaken, is not good wine. He liked a good starker wine, and so I think Rava said that, which means that Rava liked a wine that you had to dilute quite a bit, and it sounds like he basically, maybe what happened here was he diluted the wine quite a bit, which is, if it was a good wine, then that would have been the right amount. But it says he didn't like it very much, which maybe means that it wasn't such a good wine and it was too watery. Okay, meaning it was ruined, right? He added all the water, but because it wasn't a good wine, it just, right, it didn't need all that water, so it was just no good, right? So where am I? So mazge, so he diluted it to his liking, time, and then he tasted lo hava bosim, but it didn't taste very good. I guess it didn't meet his criteria of a wine that needs 3 parts wine to 1 part, 3 parts water to 1 part wine. Wait, does it? 1 second. There you go. Yeah, Tosfos says that. Okay, mazgi time lo hava bosim, so it was no good. Shadre lichanusa, so he sent it back. Abai says to Rav v'onon tanan v'lo letager. But don't we learn in a Mishnah that you can't send it back to a merchant because maybe he's going to sell it to somebody and he's not going to tell him it's diluted. So even, right, so we said don't sell it to a merchant, even if you tell the merchant, because he might forward it to somebody else and sell it to somebody else without telling them. To which Rava says, yeah, but mazga didi made the idea. Yeah, but the way I dilute is I put 3 parts water to 1 part wine. It's highly diluted, and you have to be a nut to not realize that it's diluted. So therefore it's pretty obvious, and because it's so obvious, it'll be clear to the buyer that it's been diluted. So, the merchant, he's got nothing to hide really. But maybe you'll say, yeah, but what if the merchant is then going to dilute it and then sell it? So imkain in the dover. Wait, what did I say? Meaning, but then we have to. Shouldn't we be concerned that maybe the merchant is going to add more wine to it to kind of like balance out the ratios, and then people now won't realize? So we say imkain in the dover so. But if so, then where does it end? Because what now? Can the wine owner never buy any? Can you never sell water to a wine guy because maybe he's going to dilute the water? At a certain point, you have to draw the line and say you could sell a wine monger wine, and you don't have to be. And you can have a wine shop owner guy can sell wine, and you can also sell water. And the water monger who sells wine, the water wholesaler who's selling to the wine monger doesn't have to be concerned. Well, maybe he's going to take my water and he's going to water down his wines. No, you sell him what you sell him, and as long as the product that you're selling is acceptable on its own, then you don't need to worry about anything. And here also, since the wine that I'm providing him, the wine monger, it's obvious that it's highly diluted, and it'll be clear to the buyer. So therefore, it's acceptable, and we don't have to be concerned that maybe he's going to pull shtick. a place where the minig is to dilute the wine with water, so then that's acceptable, because the people know that. Whether it's half, a third, a quarter, amarab, uvenagito shanu, and that is when it is in the, I guess during the wine season, I guess when people would be normally, I guess, diluting their wine and stuff. Alright, fine. What's this? What am I looking for? I don't know. Rabbi Yehuda Omer says, the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda says, Lo yichalek ha'chenvoni kloyus ve'goz l'tinoks b'pnei shumagilon lovo etzlo v'chachom matirin. Uwa. So Rabbi Yehuda says that a store owner cannot give out free candy, because then all the kids are going to want to shop at his shop and going to schlep along their parents, and it's going to be an unfair advantage to this particular shop owner over the other shop owners who aren't luring the kids to beg their parents to shop there because they give out free candy. So again, so Rabbi Yehuda Omer says, a store owner cannot, as a tactic, give free candies to the kids, because then he kind of like, tricking everybody to come to his store, because the kids are gonna, beg their parents to shop there because they get free candy. Chacham say, there's nothing unfair about that, as we're going to see in the Gemara, and it's okay. You can't kind of charge very cheap prices, cheaper than everybody else. Chacham say, why not? Givaldik. Abishol says you can't split the peas, or meaning, my understanding is the point is like, you can't like make everything look like really good. So like if you have like strawberries, for example, right? You can't like make this, get rid of all the bad strawberries or all the extra leaves and things like that. No, you got to leave everything in there. Chacham say, what if you want to clean up if you want to clean it up and make it look very nice, and then of course charge more for it, that's fine. But obviously, everyone agrees you can't just like, make the top layer look really good while the rest of it is not good. So then you're going to charge more for something expensive when really it's not going to be, only the top layer is good, but you're basically cheating everybody. And you can't make people, animals, and vessels like, look better than they really are. Okay, we're gonna have to explain all this stuff. Says the Gemara, my time I do about it. How come the rabbi, so the Tanakh, Rabbi Yehuda had said that the store owner can't like give out free candy because it's not fair. Then all the kids are gonna like beg their parents to shop at that store, and it gives the store owner an unfair advantage. The rabbis say it's no problem. There's nothing wrong with that. So my time the Rabbanan. How come the rabbis say that? The Omar lay. Well, because the store owner could say to the other store owner, I'm going to give out nuts and gishmak stuff. I'll give out nuts, you give out prunes. I'm not doing anything that you can't do. Right? Okay, so if I'm giving out nuts to get the people, you could always give out prunes. Yeah, good advice. Yeah, I'll give out good nuts, cashews, and nice trail mix, whatever. You can give out prunes. Yeah, okay, good idea. See who's everyone's going to come running to. But Akoponim, he says, look, there's no secrets here. I'm giving out candies. You can also give out candies. Right? And I guess it was Rabbi Yehuda. He says that, and don't kind of undercut the market. Don't charge less than everybody. The Chacham say, why not? My time, how come the Rabbanan say, why not? Look, competitive prices makes for a better market for the consumers. So why not? V'lo yover es agrisin, and don't split these peas or whatever. What are these grisen thingies? Grisen pulin, yeah, some kind of beans. Don't split the beans. I think the point is like don't kind of like, if you have these beans or grains or fruits or strawberries or cherries or whatever it might be, so if you make them look really nice and you get rid of the bad stuff, maybe the ones that don't look good, maybe the twigs and the leaves and the things that are in there, So what you're gonna do is, you're gonna basically, all you're doing is getting rid of some of the bad stuff and making it look good, but now you're gonna charge way more for it. So Abba Shaul says don't do it. Chacham matir, and the Chacham say, why not? Man Chacham, who the Chacham? Rabbi Acha. So Rabbi Acha the Tanya, Rabbi Acha matir, b'davar nir. Rabbi Acha permits something that's visible. Kilu, there's nothing wrong. If somebody wants to take the time to make his product look really good by getting rid of the bad stuff and making it look good, and yeah, sure, he's going to charge more for that, but he's charging more for a prepared product that is high quality, that looks good. He's not pulling any shtick. There's a million other merchants there. You can see what they're charging. You can see what theirs looks like. You can compare. There's no secrets over here. The consumer can make his own decision. You can see, look, this is much more expensive, but it also looks much better. It looks like a higher quality product. The guy next door is cheaper, but you see what you're getting there, and you can make your own decision. As long as you're not being dishonest, as long as you're not just taking the top layer and making it look really good, but underneath it's the same thing as everybody else, and you're charging an arm and a leg. That would not be okay. You can't make things look like better than they are in a sort of dishonest way. You can't misharvitin the animal. We'll see in a minute what that means. Novchim bakravayim. You don't. What are novchim bakravayim? Is that what what's novchim bakravayim? Well, we not inflate the intestines of an animal, making them look larger than they really are. All right, don't do that. And don't soak meat in water, because soaking meat in water could make even an inferior piece of meat look better, because it'll make the fat look fattier, and so again you'll be dishonest by selling an inferior product as though it was a superior product. You'll be dishonest. Mayin misharvitin. Where am I? My ain misharvitin. So what does it mean that you're not misharvitin an animal? Don't feed it like bran water soaked in bran or something. I guess that'll do something dishonest to it. Ziri Amr of Kahanim is mazkefta. Don't stand up its hairs, because that'll make it look fatter than it is. Shmuel Shar Lemirma Tume the Sarvla. Shmuel permitted you to add silk to the bottom of a cloak or something to make it look fancy. Rav Yehuda Shar the Kaskuse Karme. Rav Yehuda allowed you to press some kind of a cloak. Rabba Shar the Medak Tzurade. You would be allowed to, beat the fibers or something. Rabba Shar the Tzalumi Geire. Rabba permitted you to color on arrows, said they'll look nicer. Rav Papa Bar Shmuel Shar the Tzalumi Dukule. Rav Papa Bar Shmuel allowed you to color baskets to make them look nicer. But didn't we learn in our Mishnah that you can't do this? You can't make things look more desirable than they are in actuality? It's no problem. It depends. If it's new and you want to make it look, good and desirable, and it really is good and desirable, well then there's no problem. But if it's old and not good, and you're trying to make it, fake it to make it look like it is good, then that's a problem. That's being dishonest. Pirkos to Adam Maihi. What would it mean by a person to make him look better than he actually is? Avda Sava. There was an old Eved. De Ozol Tzavoy L'Reishe Uladikne, and his hair and his beard was all grayed. So he went and he dyed it to make it black so that he would look younger. Also, the comment of Rava, he comes before Rava. Amar le Zibnon. He says, "Buy me." Amalei Rava says, "You aniyim b'nei veisecha." Look, I don't want to buy you. That this was an Eved Kanaini. He says, "I don't want to. Right? I'd rather hire Yidden, aniyim that are Yidden that I can give a parnosa to." Sorry. Also, the comment of Papa said, this Eved Kanaini came to Papa Bar Shmuel Zabne. Papa Bar Shmuel purchased him. Yom Echad Amalei Ashkayin. So one day he says to the Eved, "Okay, bring me some water." Ashkayin Mai, bring me some water. Ozul Chaber the Rachel Adikne, and then David Kanani went and he undid the dye and he showed that he was old and gray. Look, you're gonna ask me to do stuff for you? I'm older than your father. And at that point, Rav Papa Bar Shmuel realized that he was taken advantage of, that this guy was dishonest him. Karya Nafshe, and Rav Papa Bar Shmuel read about himself. Tzaddik Mitzara Nechlatz, that the Tzaddik Rava is saved from from a negative scenario, v'yovo acher tachtev, and somebody else takes his place, i.e. me, that I didn't, heed Rav's advice, and I purchased this Eved, and look what happened. Hajjan Olach Azov, we'll come back to Perek Azov. Wow, that was Givaldic. That was awesome stuff. That was really cool stuff. We talked about, I guess, being like, making sure that whatever you say you're selling, you're actually selling. Cheved, that was Daf Samach of Masechta BavaMetzia, was also Perek Hazov of Masechta BavaMetzia. That was the 4th Perek of BavaMetzia. Tomorrow we're starting the 5th Perek of BavaMetzia, Ezu Neshech. Ezu Neshech as a reputation of being like impossible. So, let's see. The first 2 daf are manageable. I can tell you that much. Catch you later. Peace out.